Good morning. I think it's morning everywhere. Welcome to Employer Flexible's My Learning webinar on hiring in 2025. We will get started in about 3 minutes just so we can have time for everybody to get logged in. Um, in the meantime, just sit back, relax. We're going to use a few tools. We'll go over those in just a few minutes. But we're so glad to have you here. Good afternoon, Annabelle. And if you know how to use the GoToWebinar tools, you can feel free to go ahead and send us anything in the chat, questions. But if you don't know how to use them, don't worry about it. We will show you how to use them and remind you throughout the entire session. And if you do know how to use the tools and you can find the chat, Cassie, correct me if I'm wrong, but on this in the webinar today, the chats are just going directly to us, not to the whole entire group, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for confirming that. Um, if you want to, while we wait, we've got just a couple more minutes before we can get started. Into the chat, you can let Brittany, Cassie, and I know where you're calling in from, city, state. Just interesting for us to see where everyone is from. So if you want to participate and do that, that'd be great. If you don't know where the chat is, don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it in just a second. But for those of you who can find it, go for it. See some other people have joined us. We're glad you're here. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes, just giving extra time for those to log in. And we will be with you in just a minute for our hiring in 2025 trends, challenges, and best practices for a shifting workforce. We are so glad you're here. All right, we're about probably 45 seconds away from getting started. All right. Oh, and I see in our that we have someone from Texas. We've got another Texas, Illinois, Florida. That's amazing. That's super exciting. We're really, really glad to see all of that. Yeah, and if you can see the Q&A, go ahead, the questions box, you can tell us where you're calling in from today. It's just fun. Fun for us to see where everybody is. Yay,
All
some
right. See,
more. Oh, wow.
that's
Look,
in
Brittany.
Houston.
Yeah. Alabama, Montana, San Antonio,
30.
Washington, D.C., Indiana. Wow. Welcome, everybody. All right. It is 3 minutes after, so we are going to get started. You can keep using that question box and letting us know where you're from if you want to, because, again, it's fun for us. So with that, we know that hiring has become more complex than ever, and we're going to walk through and look at some best practices, some trends, some strategies, so that you can navigate the hiring in 2025 with confidence. So let's go ahead and look at some of the tools we're going to use today, some little housekeeping type things. You're going to see that, or you probably heard when you logged in, that you are in listen only mode. But we still want this to be interactive, so we're going to use those GoToWebinar features. We have the question box. Looks like many of you have found that. The question box is located, just click on it in the upper right-hand corner. It's the one with the question mark. You can type in questions throughout our presentation today. We will try to answer those throughout the presentation, but if for some reason we can't get to your question, we'll make sure to answer it offline later. There are handouts as well. If you look also right next to that question box, you can click there and download the handouts. You can access the documents that we're going to talk about today and just download those right now. So let's also look at reactions, and we're going to test to see if everybody can find that reaction button. The reaction button is in the bottom part of your screen. And what I'd like for you to do is if you can find that, you can click it and give us a thumbs up, a heart, clap hands, like, oh, yay, look, everybody can see it. Super exciting. We're really glad that you can find those because we've got a couple things there. We're also going to have some polls today, but you'll know when those pop up, and we're going to tell you all about those when we get to that. So let me tell you about us, who we are, who's presenting your material today. I'm Samantha Cox. I'm a certified HR professional and a licensed attorney in Texas. I've got almost 15 years of experience in the PEO industry, about to graduate to 15. I specialize in helping organizations achieve their business goals, maintaining their HR compliance, and I really love organizational development. I love training, here we are, and performance management. We also have with us today Brittany Buck. Brittany leads our HR and benefits teams across Texas, Alabama, Montana, and Oklahoma. She's a certified HR professional with over 13 years of experience in the PEO industry. And Brittany works closely with consultants and leadership teams across industries to design and implement effective HR strategies, policies, and initiatives. And our final presenter today is Cassie Wilson. Cassie is the Director of HR, Risk and Benefit Consulting here at Employer Flexible. She brings over a decade of HR leadership and experience in PEO and has been with Employer Flexible for almost 7 years. Cassie is passionate about adding value and mitigating risks and helping businesses like yours stay focused on what matters most. So just before we get started, just a quick note, the presentation is intended to provide general HR best practices and guidance and shouldn't be construed as any kind of legal advice. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and look at some other things. So again, we're very thankful for all of you being here. We know that we have a mix of both of our clients and some non-clients in our audience. So before we dive in, we just want to share a quick overview of who we are and what we do at Employer Flexible, or eFlex as we sometimes refer to ourselves. As a professional employer organization, or PEO, we provide businesses with end-to-end support in HR, benefits, risk management, and payroll. Our goal is to help companies simplify their operations, make sure they're staying compliant, and attract that great talent, and ultimately grow stronger. When you partner with a PEO, you gain access to so much expertise, buying power, resources that can sometimes typically be out of the reach for most small to medium-sized businesses. And according to a study by NAPIO, companies that work with a PEO see 12% lower turnover, grow twice at the rate of those who don't partner with a PEO, and are 50% less likely to fail compared to those who go at it alone. So I would say it's a great relationship to have. Now at eFlex, we do take a people first approach, tailoring our support to meet the unique needs of your business and your team. So with that said, we are a partner. We are an extension of your team. We're a trusted resource. So let's go ahead and look at what we're going to look at today regarding to that hiring in 2025. So our key objectives for our training today, and we've got a lot of ground to cover, but we're going to be discussing the hiring landscape. Then we're going to take a look at how the presidential administration and potential upcoming policy shifts could impact the hiring practices and employment laws in our months ahead. From there, we're going to walk through best practices for attracting and retaining talent, including what today's candidates really want from employers. After that, we're going to deep dive, or mostly deep dive-ish, into generational hiring insights with a special focus on Gen Z and how they're influencing the future of work. And Cassie's really got some interesting things for you up there on that. All right, so let's go into setting the stage. So what's happening in the hiring landscape across the country right now? Well, we're seeing continued growth in major industries, tech, healthcare, construction, and that's great. But that also means that there's a competition for talent and it's only going to get hotter. It's heating up. So even though the national unemployment rate remains relatively low, about 4.1%, a lot of employers are still struggling with labor shortages, especially those in that high growth sector. So at the same time, remote work and hybrid models are now the norm for many, many roles. And that's completely reshaped how companies approach hiring. And we can't ignore the rise of the gig economy. More professionals, they're choosing freelance or contract work instead of traditional full-time roles. So the bottom line, job seekers today, they have more options and more power than ever. They're looking for more than just a paycheck. They want flexibility, they want work-life balance, and a company culture that aligns with their values. So it may feel harder to hire these days, and you're not imagining it if you think that if you have that perspective. The landscape really has shifted, and that's what we're here to talk about today. With the candidates holding more power than ever, companies really have to adapt their hiring strategies. So we're going to pop up our first poll, and the first poll is about what is your biggest hiring challenge that you feel like right now. So you're just going to click your answer, and we'll see those roll in. Okay, starting to see them roll in. Ooh, it's a kind of fun to see it like go from how many have responded. It's very fun. All right, we have about 40% of you who have responded. We've got about 3 more seconds to get your vote in. We're at 50%. Yay. Okay, so let's take a look real fast. And interesting, finding qualified candidates seems to be in the lead, followed by competing with other employers on compensation and benefits. That sounds right. That sounds right. Thank you guys for working on that poll for us. So let's look ahead to recent administration shift. We anticipate greater immigration enforcement and a renewed focus on I-9 compliance and that employment verification. So let's do a little pulse check here using our reaction buttons. Remember those on the bottom of your screen. If your company currently relies on foreign talent or sponsors any visas, will you give me a thumbs up? This is going to kind of help us get a general feel for what you're navigating during your hiring considerations. Okay, a couple of thumbs ups coming in. Yeah, well, so some of you are not, and that's interesting. A few of you are. Thank you for letting us know about that. Under the last Republican administration, we did see stricter immigration the USCIS, all of the government agencies, right? The alphabet soup. And during COVID, there was a pause on new visa sponsorships. If similar policies return, we could see delays, additional scrutiny, or even restrictions on employment-based visas. And this could significantly impact business that rely on foreign talent. Now, beyond visas, we also expect to see a stronger focus on those I-9 audits and the removal of undocumented workers. We've seen in the past that workplace raids and audits tend to increase when you have those stricter immigration policies. With this administration, we also expect to see the return of those I-9 audits like we're talking about. And there are some factors that weigh into I-9 audits. Your company size, larger employers tend to face more scrutiny. The industry, high turnover sectors like hospitality or construction are often more targeted. And location, some states and regions have more enforcement than others. And then your past audit history. Have you been audited before? Because if you have a higher chance of being reviewed again. And if there's any public complaints or calls to ICE, whistleblower reports, or competitor complaints, those can also trigger an audit. So using your reaction buttons again, give me a thumbs up if you proactively audit your I-9s recently. Maybe at all. Have you done it before? Oh, wow. Okay, we've got a mix going on. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up though, which is super great. And you know, for those of you that this particular task has fallen off your radar, it's important. We recommend using a checklist to do this periodically or the USCIS handbook as your guide. Now, if you'd like a copy of a checklist that we use, just shoot us an email over and we'll be happy to send that your way. Lastly, another potential change is the E-Verify expansion. It's very possible that we might see a push towards mandatory E-Verify nationwide, meaning all employers would be required to verify new hires through the federal system. I'm just looking at the questions here for a second. What does it mean to audit the I-9s? That's what that checklist would walk you through. There's a lot of different things and components to an I-9 audit, but it's, you know, part of it is making sure, do you have an I-9 for every person that you employ? Not your independent contractors, but the people who are, in a sense, W-2 employees. So the checklist would be very helpful for seeing everything that you need to go through on that. Okay, so looking also as what do you need to do, and it plays right into understanding what the I-9 audit is you have to prepare. So now is the time to get that checklist out, review the processes, making sure you're staying compliant, that you're staying informed. Even if enforcement ramps up, companies that are proactive are going to be in a stronger position to navigate those shifts and make sure that they don't have many disruptions to their workplace. So, and there's other things that new administrations bring. So let's take a look at some other policy changes that can impact hiring and workforce planning. Now, beyond the immigration, I-9 enforcement, there are a few other key areas. Minimum wage adjustments. There's always a discussion around this on the federal level and the state level on wage increases. If enacted, those higher wages could impact your labor costs, pricing, strategies, hiring decisions, especially for those workforces or companies that have the large hourly workforce. Worker classification laws. There's been an ongoing push to redefine what is a independent contractor under federal and some state laws as well. And changes here could mean stricter guidelines for classifying what is a gig worker, which may impact how you engage with your freelancers, your consultants, and your contractors. Another place that we're seeing greater regulatory focus on is pay transparency and DEI compliance. Now, the Trump administration has issued executive orders aiming to end certain DEI programs within the federal workforce and among federal contractors. So it's important to kind of follow that as well. Certain industries could see hiring slowdowns, while others might receive government incentives for job creation. So, for example, clean energy, infrastructure related jobs, you know, they may benefit from some federal investments. Now, ultimately, these shifts reinforce the need for businesses to stay informed and stay adaptable. Hiring strategies really might need to be adjusted based on evolving policies. Organizations that are proactively prepared for these types of things are going to be in a better position, to navigate these changes successfully. All right, I have one more poll for you. What hiring challenges do you anticipate due to regulatory changes?
Okay. 30 seconds. Any takers?
Yeah, we're starting to see answers roll in. Let's see if you guys can do just as good as you did last time. All right, we're rolling in. All right, not nearly. We got there. Okay. Oh, and I'm seeing that someone in chat or in our questions is saying no changes. Okay, that could definitely be something that happens, and maybe you're already doing hiring that takes in a lot of these things we're talking about today. But the minimum wage or labor cost increase impacting the budget, that one won, and that makes sense. So appreciate your responses on that. All right, Brittany, let's turn it over to your capable hands.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sam. So Now let's shift gears a little bit to some key employment issues that likely won't be tackled at the federal level anytime soon, but they're gaining serious traction at the state and local level. These emerging areas are shaping the compliance landscape in big ways. So first up, AI, artificial intelligence. AI in hiring, more employers are using AI to screen resumes, assess candidates, but now we're seeing states step in to regulate its use. So some states may require you to disclose when AI is used within your hiring process, while others are pushing for guardrails to prevent bias and protect candidate data privacy. So this is an area to watch closely, especially if you're using automated tools in your recruiting process. Next is non-compete agreements. So the FTC is again pushing for a nationwide ban on non-competes, but as of now, they're still enforceable in most of the country, but about 45 states. However, the trend is shifting. Around 30 plus states are actually considering restrictions or full bans. Because of that, many employers are pivoting to non-solicitation, non-disclosure, and non-disparage clauses. So these tend to be more enforceable, especially when applied reasonably. Additionally, we see more focus on no hire provisions, which prevent employees from leaving for a client. However, courts may allow reasonable restrictions for key executives, but broad bans on employee movement are unlikely to hold up. And finally, paid leave and benefit mandates for states are expanding employee protections here too. And you may see a broader family leave and paid leave requirements and potential increases on employer health care contribution mandates. So obviously this varies by state. So if you have multi-state employers that are on the call, you need to stay on top of these evolving requirements. But bottom line, state level employment laws are moving fast. Staying informed and flexible is key to staying compliant. So we're going to pop up a poll. Which of these state level issues is most concerning for your business right now? See what we got here. Any takers? We've got about 20 seconds. Paid leave, absolutely. AI, got a good mixed bag here. Like it, not sure. Got about 5 more seconds. Yep. Awesome. Well, I mean, as you can see, it's quite a mix, but majority is landing with a tie between not sure or none of the above, as well as those paid leave and benefit mandates. So totally get it. You know, here at Employer Flexible, we actually provide our clients with up-to-date 50 state charts to help navigate the evolving landscape. So it's something that we bring to the table with our clients, as well as, you know, just making sure we're constantly staying on top of what's happening on the state level. All right. So moving along, some best practices for hiring in today's market. Obviously, today's job market is really competitive. So how can companies stand out? Well, it all starts with smart sourcing strategies, clear and compelling job descriptions, and a seamless candidate experience. Here at eFlex, or Employer Flexible, we recommend clients review and update job description at least twice a year. On our slide, you'll see why. Our job description toolkit helps ensure postings are accurate, inclusive, as well as appealing. So if you'd like a copy, you'll have our contact information. Majority of everyone has my contact, but we're going to pop up our contacts at the end of the presentation that you're welcome to reach out, and we'll absolutely provide that toolkit for you. But beyond the job posting, your employer brand matters more than ever. You know, candidates are paying attention to how companies present themselves. So things like a robust applicant tracking system, or ATS, an appealing user-friendly careers page, and a consistent and authentic engagement on social media really do all play a big role in setting your company apart. And speed is key. Today's candidates want efficiency. They want it fast, right? Long gone are the days of clunky applications and endless assessments. And if your process is slow or overly complex, you're likely to lose some top talent before they even hit the interview stage. Because top talent, they really don't want to wait. They'll move on. Every extra step in your process risks shrinking your talent pool. So let's get some reactions. Can you give me a thumbs up if you've ever had a candidate decline a job offer after reviewing the benefit package? Or give me a heart if you've lost a candidate due to salary misalignment, or both. Okay, so salary misalignment is coming in hot. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yep. So a lot of salary misalignment. We do see, obviously, declining a job offer when reviewing benefit package. So we appreciate that. You're not alone. We're seeing this more and more. So let's get a quick read as far as, let's read the room, right? We're going to pop up a poll real fast. Which candidate expectations have you seen most often lately? Flexibility, speed, transparency, maybe all the above, or maybe none, or you're just not sure. Flexibility, yep. All the above, yep. Coming in hot, all the above. Yep. Flexibility is definitely on the top range there. Haven't seen any speed yet, which is great. But yeah, awesome. That's right. Flexibility, speed, transparency, it beat it out. That's really what candidate expectations are, what we're seeing often. And the reality is that compensation and benefits are critical deal breakers too. To remain competitive, you really want to make sure that you're using salary benchmarking data, which we also provide, tracking the market trends, even offering a strong benefits package to position yourself as the employer of choice. Partnering with a PEO like Employer Flexible can give small to medium-sized businesses an edge to providing access to Fortune 500 level benefits, competitive salary insights, and help you with your strategic hiring so you can get that, attract and retain your top talent, which is most important. All right. So now let's shift to focus on the most overlooked but critical parts of hiring, your job descriptions. On the screen, you'll see two versions of the job description for the same role. One is outdated and vague, and the other has been optimized to reflect what today's candidates care about. Since the text might be small on your screen, you can access them on that handout section, and that's that little, looks like a little clipboard. But also, don't worry, we're going to walk through the key differences together, and I'll point out what to look for. So let's start with version 1. It's pretty bare bones, no salary information, no mention of the work model, so flexible, hybrid, and whatnot, and not much to get someone excited about applying. So let's look at version 2. So it includes a clear hybrid work model with days in office outlines, so it's important to get that detail in. The salary range, a brief but strong employer branding summary, and a highlight of the benefits that are offered. These updates don't just make it clear, they make it more compelling. Candidates today want transparency, flexibility, we've all seen that, and a sense of who they'll be working with. So a well-crafted job description is one of the most powerful recruiting tools. Small changes like stating your work model, adding salary insights, and including your branding summary can really drastically improve the quality and volume of candidates who apply. So another poll for you, see who's all paying attention. Which of the following do you currently include on your job posting? You can select all that apply as well. Any takers? All the above, fantastic. Love that. Okay, salary. It's good to see majority of you are putting all the above. I like to see that. Benefits, it's another. We'll give it 5 more seconds. 3, 2. Awesome. So wow, so we've got a good mix. I like it. I like that a majority of them put all the above, 56%. So fantastic. That's right. The job description matters. So, one thing I wanted to actually just check with that reaction feature is if you think your current job descriptions could use a refresh after seeing this example, give me a heart. Or thumbs down if you think they're spot on. Ah, yes, I like seeing those. Fantastic. Lots of folks with thumbs down, which is great, but I see quite a few hearts. So definitely reach out to us if you want to check out our job description toolkit so we can also help you get that all up to date. Okay, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Cassie Wilson.
Awesome. Thank you, Brittany. Okay, so now we want to shift gears a little bit. We're going to look into how a multi-generational workforce can and should impact your hiring strategies. So really, for the first time in history, we have 5 and soon to be 6 generations that are working side by side. We have, from traditionalists to Gen Z. Each of these generations brings something different to the table that can and should influence how we work, how we communicate, and how we hire. The 6th generation on the horizon, Gen Alpha, they haven't quite entered the workforce yet, so we're not going to focus too strongly there. but they will likely begin taking on part-time roles and internships as soon as 2030. So it's not too early to start thinking about that and what's coming with that too. So before we dive in deeper and explore these generations, I do have to start with a caveat, an important point here. Everything I'm going to discuss, all the insights we talk about today, are really based on kind of general trends and observations. They are not hard, fast rules. They're meant to help us better understand, connect, collaborate. It's not meant to put people in boxes. As we all know, every person is unique. And while these kind of generational characteristics, they help give us context, they should not be used to stereotype or make any sort of assumptions. So, really, this is just about appreciating different perspectives and using that understanding to help us build more inclusive and effective teams. So, let's do another poll here quickly just to test some knowledge before we unpack these characteristics of each generation. Um, which generation do you find the most challenging to recruit for or engage in the hiring process? If you don't know really some different nuances yet, don't worry, we're going to dig deep. You can just put not sure for now, and then we'll talk about it more on the next slide here. So we'll give it about, I don't know, 10 more seconds here to see your answers piling in. We're definitely seeing Gen Z. Good thing we're going to deep dive on Gen Z and give you some tips there. Millennials, some people saying boomers. So we are completely across the board here. This is always a fascinating one because what works for one group might completely miss the mark with another. From the application process to our communication style when we're hiring to even the benefits that we highlight of what we offer, each generation might be looking for something a little bit different. So that is exactly why we are going to take a look at what those things could be. Again, remember, as we look at each group, it's not one size fits all. We're just trying to understand these nuances a little bit that can help us in our hiring efforts in attracting and engaging and retaining top talent. So first, I want to start with traditionalists. Traditionalists make up a very small percentage of our workforce, as many have retired at this point. So while they're kind of rare in the workforce, their presence does have a meaningful cultural impact, though. Many organizations still carry elements of their values like formality and loyalty and a strong work ethic. Next up, we have the baby boomers. Baby boomers are currently in their 60s to late 70s, so many are retiring or planning to in the next 5 to 10 years. But when they're aligning with an organization, they tend to value stability, loyalty, and strong leadership. Many are going to prefer a more structured hiring process with very clear professional communication. And they are most attracted to traditional type benefits like retirement plans and comprehensive health care. And we talked about earlier how remote work has really gained popularity. Although that's the case, many boomers still prefer that in-person collaboration with their teams. Next up, we have Gen X, otherwise known as the latchkey generation. They earned that nickname because many Gen X kids, they would come home from school to an empty household. This was really thought to be due to rising divorce rates and being kind of that first generation where there were more people, more parents that were in dual income households. So because of this, they tend to be pretty independent and resourceful. And how does that translate to their work lives? It means they can prioritize work-life balance, autonomy, and job security. They tend to appreciate really straightforward expectations and transparency in the hiring process and seek out competitive pay, PTO, and long-term financial security. Now, moving to the largest segment of the workforce today, I saw your poll where millennials and Gen Z causes the most challenge. So millennials are the largest segment. With millennials, we see that first big shift in priorities. They tend to seek flexibility, purpose, and career development. This is the first generation really to call their parents their friends. And because of that, they tend to value mentorship, growth opportunities, and inclusive cultures. This generation, we grew up with technology. So we expect a fast, engaging, and streamlined hiring process. Like Brittany mentioned earlier, long, drawn out applications, that's going to be a major turnoff for millennials. And finally, we have Gen Z. Gen Z is the fastest growing workforce segment. So actually, by 2030, they're expected to make up about 30% of our workforce. They are the first fully digital native generation. They were practically born with iPhones in their hands. So they expect and demand quick, tech driven hiring experiences with fast feedback. So think about sending them a text quickly after an interview instead of waiting until the end of the day to send an email. Um, Now, this generation was the first generation to call their parents their best friends. And with that, they place a high value on the company's values, DEI initiatives, and really just the workplace culture when they are making their career decisions. From a benefits standpoint, they're more so drawn to remote work options, flexible schedules, the community impact of the company, and continuous learning opportunities. We're actually going to dive a little bit deeper into Gen Z on the next slide too. So really, what does all of this mean for employers? Well, obviously, simply put, one size fits all hiring strategies no longer work. As boomers retire and your candidate pool starts shifting to a millennial and Gen Z majority, we need to be adaptable to stay competitive. To do this, you can, and should update your job descriptions to attract more than one generation, like Brittany highlighted earlier. You should emphasize different types of benefits on your career page, not just traditional. And you should really tailor your communication to meet the generational preferences that we just talked through. So here, I want you guys to give me a little reaction here. If you feel like you've done this, if you feel like you have adjusted your hiring process really in the last 2 years, give me a thumbs up. Maybe that means you've shortened your timelines, you've moved to more tech-driven hiring processes. I'm seeing some thumbs down, lots of thumbs up, so that's good. Maybe you're leveraging social media a little bit more. All right, well, I'm seeing a little bit of a mixed bag. So, this is all about meeting candidates where they are. You understand what they value, you adjust your hiring approach to reflect that. It's not about changing your values, changing everything you are. It's really just about speaking their language. Um, so as promised, I want to dive a little deeper on Gen Z. Because Gen Z is entering the job market in full force right now, uh, they're bringing fresh expectations. They are already changing how we recruit, interview, and retain, as we saw with all those thumbs up. And while every candidate is unique, there are clear themes that companies should be aware of in order to stay relevant. So what matters most to Gen Z? Flexibility is huge. They desire hybrid or remote work options and adaptable schedules. That rigid 9 to 5 structure may not appeal to them as much as more of a results-based performance model. Purpose-driven work is essential. Gen Z, they want to feel like what they're doing matters and that it has an impact, whether that's within the company, how their role has an impact, it's how it has an impact in the industry or society at large. Um, and then interesting with Gen Z is career growth within one company is important to them, but they don't want to feel boxed in. So they crave mentorship, internal mobility, and opportunities to explore really different roles within the organization. And then obviously digital engagement, that's a given. They grew up with technology. So companies that are using AI driven hiring tools, video interviews, social media recruiting, they're just naturally going to stand out more to Gen Z. On the other hand, let's talk about what's going to turn them off in this process. If you have slow or unclear hiring processes, that's going to turn them off. Gen Z, they expect quick communication and responsiveness. If they're not hearing back promptly, they've already assumed that you're no longer interested and they've moved on to the next company. a lack of transparency. Like Brittany showed on that job description, the effective one, they want to see salary details. They want to know about the company culture. They want to see career growth opportunities up front. Hiding those details or having vague job postings, that can be a major deterrent, and you're losing out on candidates right away. And then rigid career paths. So, unlike previous generations, Gen Z, they're not looking for that linear career path. They want to explore different roles, they want to gain diverse skills and have the ability to really pivot within the organization, not just move up that traditional type of ladder. So, um, give me another heart reaction here. I just want to gauge. Have you seen specifically Gen Z candidates kind of drop off due to one of these turnoffs? You know, maybe you are a little bit slower in your communication, maybe you don't post salary data up front and that turned them off. Okay, so you're not alone. Obviously, we can see all these thumbs up here. We're in this together. But making small shifts in how we hire, communicate, and support Gen Z can lead to big gains in attracting and retaining this next wave of talent that is taking over our workforce. Now, you might be thinking, well, we've been hiring successfully for years. Why should we have to change our approach? They should change for us. That's a completely fair question. But the truth is that the workforce is shifting so fast. Baby boomers, many of whom have been in our leadership roles, they're retiring in increasing numbers. Gen Z is already reshaping the workplace, and Gen Alpha, like we said, is right behind them. So it's not about changing everything. It's about being strategic, being adaptable, and being future ready. What works for you today may not work in the next 5 to 10 years based on what you see on this slide here. So, think of it this way. You're not going to use a fax machine to attract a Gen Z software engineer in your recruiting process. So why use a one size fits all hiring approach for a workforce that's made up of 5 and soon to be 6 very different generations with very different values and wants in the hiring process? I also want to point out that, the most successful companies, it's not just about filling roles. They're building workplaces that engage, inspire, and grow talent across these generations. That takes an intentional approach. Meeting candidates where they are isn't about giving in to their wants and expectations. It is about staying competitive and creating a workplace that's going to thrive now and thrive into the future, like we can see on this slide here. So let's wrap up everything that we've learned today. The hiring landscape, it's not just changing, it's evolving rapidly across every dimension. From the political climate and technology shifts that Sam mentioned to the very people we are trying to recruit. But really, here's the good news. You don't have to overhaul your entire strategy. You just need to stay aware, stay flexible, and be willing to evolve. Whether that's, just as simple as writing better job descriptions, adapting to these new laws, or intentionally working to engage multiple generations. These aren't just trends, they're opportunities for you to stand out, connect more deeply with the talent that you're trying to recruit, and build a workplace that's ready for the future. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And if you like any of the resources we've mentioned, like our job description toolkit or that I-9 checklist or state charts, or if you want to just learn more about Employer Flexible, please feel free to reach out to any of us after this session. Also want to point out that you're going to receive a survey. We want to know your feedback. So please take that survey and let us know if there's any content that you want us to cover in the future. Stay tuned for an announcement on our next webinar that will focus on the fun complexities of leave of absence laws. Thanks again, everyone. We really appreciate having you here today, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. We will get to your questions in the chat. We definitely will. We'll probably email you separately. Awesome.